Hello and welcome to Module 14, the common threats and attacks. Okay, so let's begin. We're going to talk about malware. What is malware? The different types of malwares that are out there. The different common networks attacks, such as reconnaissance, access attacks, and social engineering attacks, and what you could do to prevent them. And the network attacks, such as denial of service attacks or buffer overflows, and how to evade from being detected. Evasions, right? All right, so let's begin. Remember, you got to take notes, so make sure you have Microsoft Word open. So let's start with malware. Malware is really short for malicious. That's what the mal is for, malicious software. So write the first bullet point. Actually, these 2 bullet points. So it's a code of software. They are to damage, disrupt, steal, or do whatever, do damage to your network or your device. And it could be viruses, worms, or Trojan horses. So you got to know the difference between them. And you should be able to protect against all of these different types of malware. All right, so write the first definition of what a virus is, the first bullet point. So a virus is a malware that spreads by having a copy of itself into another. So it's just like a human virus. Viruses, they attach themselves to legitimate software. So if you're downloading a software, you may think it's your software. They're pretending to be your a legitimate software. So when you install it, and as soon as they get in there, they make copies of themselves. So in case you actually detect the actual virus, another copy will come up. So it's a big problem if you download a virus, because they're very hard to detect, just like a human virus. And by the time you realize that you have a virus, it's going to be very difficult to get rid of. So that's what a virus is. A Trojan horse, again, please copy the first 3 bullet points. So Trojan horses are, you may think of them as viruses. They are installed on your computer, but they don't do anything. They just sit dormant and they stay there till you execute it, or after a certain amount of time has elapsed, they go in and they start doing damage to your system. So that's what a Trojan horse is. So the difference, sometimes we call it time bombs. They wait for a certain amount of time after 6 months, and then they start doing damage. They don't damage your system or steal data immediately. So this way you can't really detect when it came, how it came, and they don't want you to be able to scan your system or things like that. You may think everything was right. 6 months down the road, you'll find out that you actually had a virus and you don't know where you got it from and how you got it and how you got it in the system. And the attacker is probably gone by then. All right, so anyway, so here are the classifications of Trojan horses. So please take a screenshot of this. They will allow you to have unauthorized remote access. You can access a system remotely. You can send data to you, such as passwords or even hashes of the password. They can be disruptive. They can be, you can use a proxy. You can use someone else's computer to launch an attack. They can be used to send, upload and download data using the file transfer protocol, FTP. They can disable your antivirus program. They can launch an attack on your system, on your network. They can be used as a keylogger. A keylogger could be a software or hardware that monitors every single key that you type. That's before even the data is encrypted. So they'll be able to get credit card numbers, your passwords, and things like that. Okay, worms. So please write that down. A worm is, again, like, write the first bullet point. A worm is a virus, but the difference between a virus and a worm is that a worm is when you download it on your computer, and if your computer is connected to other devices in a network, it will propagate itself without the intervention of the user. You don't even have to do anything, and it will just spread like crazy. So in 2001, the code read, within 19 hours, you're talking about it went from 658 servers to 300,000 I think it's SQL servers. The whole world was infected within 19 hours. That's how fast it spread. So there's the SQL slam injector, and 30 minutes later, look what happened. And actually, Microsoft, from my understanding, is they did have a patch for this that was launched, that was sent 2 weeks earlier. And for servers that actually installed that patch, didn't have the problem. But a lot of administrators never bothered installing, and then those are the ones that got hit. So Microsoft was able to detect and knew about that loophole and actually sent out a patch for it. And this is telling you, how important to download and install security patches that operating system vendors or software vendors send you. That's extremely important. All right, so that's that. We don't have to worry about that. Now, the warm components you can propagate for 19 days, launch an attack within the next 7 days, stop and go. They can do that, repeat the cycle. So they can do that constantly. They can do it, wait, and then do it again, and so on. Ransomware. Everybody knows, hopefully, about what ransomware is, but at least, we got to write the first 3 bullet points down. So ransomware is a malware that will, for example, download a program that will encrypt your hard drive. And after it's been encrypted, they'll send you a message that's telling you you have to pay up, and we'll send you a key to decrypt your hard drive. So you got to be very careful about what you are downloading and what you are clicking. So, or blackmail you, telling you that we got some information on you. If you don't pay us, we'll do this, and we'll call the FBI and any of that other crap. Okay, so be very, and especially they'll use social engineering to get information from you and try to compromise your system. And then if you don't pay up, then your system is, they'll break down your system. They'll cause damage to your system. All right, other types of malware, take a screenshot of this. You got scareware, they'll try to scare you. Maybe you'll use your camera and tell you that we have your picture, we're going to call the FBI, you were on these websites, and or you've been, things like that, trying to get you nervous, or they'll send you a message telling you that you have purchased something from us and you never paid it, and we're going to call the FBI and so on. So please give me your username and password and things like that. Phishing, they're attempting to convince people to give them in the sensitive information. So you may get an email, for example. That's a perfect definition of what phishing is. Asking you to think, I think many years ago, I got an email from an attacker that's saying that you purchased a 70-inch TV and you never paid for it on eBay. And when I got that email, they had the eBay logo, they had the whole 9 yards, and it said, if you don't pay for it, we're going to call the FBI, you're going to call the police on you and blah, blah, report you and all that. So when you get something like that and it looks suspicious, don't ever click on anything. Or you get something from the bank saying, click here, we want to make sure we think your account has been compromised, so please click here to double check. So you log in, you put your username and password. That's when they get you, okay? So anyway, so I went to that, I closed the email and I went directly, I typed email.com, logged in, and there was obviously nothing in there. I knew it was a scam. Rootkits are software that is installed on your system, and after they install and they send all the information that is needed to the attacker, they hide themselves, or sometimes they even erase themselves and completely are gone. So it's almost impossible for them to detect. So rootkits are tough to get rid of. Spyware is, you can have Trojan horses, adwares, they're tracking cookies. A lot of the cookies that you install on your system, they're trying to watch what you do, what system, what websites you go to, and then they start hitting you with a lot of adwares. Adwares are really annoying pop-ups that a vendor is used for an author. Again, take a snapshot of this, at least read this once so you'll understand what these definitions are. A lot of this stuff has been taken care of either by your antivirus program or even your browsers, Chrome's or Edge or the Fire one. Okay, so moving on. Common malware behaviors. Please write down all of these bullet points. So how do you know that you have a malware on your system? So this is important. So this way you can, if somebody comes in with and saying, "Oh, my system has a malware or a virus," how do you know that it has it? So this way you can eliminate or not eliminate that there is a virus or not. So if you have strange virus or programs on your desktop, antivirus and the firewall programs are keep turning off, or they are reconfigured to do something else. Your computer keeps freezing, although it could be something else. It could be a hardware issue. Emails are being sent without your knowledge. You have files that are being modified or deleted. If you go to we talked earlier, I think in chapter 3 or 4, when we're talking about Windows, where you can check the task manager to see if your CPU and memory usage is very, very high. That could be a virus. Connecting to other devices on your network, trying to reach your resources. If you have problems with that, your computer is very slow. Unknown processes that are popping up. You have software that's being installed on your system. If you go to the control panel and uninstall and install system, and you see all of these applications, if anything that looks unfamiliar and you never installed it, get rid of it, right? All right, so now let's take a look at some network attacks, the reconnaissance, access, and social engineering attacks. Please take these 3 bullet points on reconnaissance. Reconnaissance attacks, or recon, we call them, this is where the footprinting, the scanning, and enumerating the system. Before you do an attack, you have to gather some information. And this type of attack really doesn't do any harm, but it just gathers information, as much information as you can before you do an attack. You want to get the IP address, the passwords. You use all the vulnerabilities, all the utilities that you have in your hand to gather as much information as you can about the victim. So that's called reconnaissance. Scan the area before you attack. Try to figure out everything that you can before you launch an attack, because once you're using that information, you can break right in and get in and out as quickly as possible. So what can you do? What are utilities that can be there? So you can use the oops, sorry about that, guys. Let me just go back a little bit. All right, so please take a screenshot of this. So you can gather information using the whois. You can use the command or on the website. You can initiate a ping sweep, ping everybody, see who responds back. And after you can do that, you can use a port scan. The ones that responded back, replied to your echo reply to the ping. You can use a port scanner to find out if any ports are open on those devices that were responded back to you. You can run a vulnerability scanner. to give you even more information, not only about ports, about anything else that you can use to break into the network. So there's your open VAS that you can download and install free, an open vulnerability scanner. If you are an ethical hacker, you should be, and you don't want to pay for a vulnerability scanner, you may use that. Nessus version 6 is pretty good, but you have to, though the paid version is of course is even better, but you can download and get the free version to scan your network for vulnerabilities. Run exploitation tools. Okay, so there's plenty of them out there that will try to discover any vulnerabilities on your network. Again, take a screenshot of this. So you could do the who is. Who is will give you information about the networks, the website, for example, whoiscisco.com, where they are located, even their address and different servers, their IP addresses. You can do a ping sweep, ping everybody. And the ones that respond back are the ones that you want to concentrate on. The other ones may be down. Can't even attack them. That's what a ping sweep is. Send a ping to everybody in one shot. Port scanning, the ones that responded back, they'll tell us, oh, these ports are open. Now I can use these ports to send data. Malware, maybe, right? Access attack, please take this, write the first sentence down, and the password attacks, of course. So an access attack is the vulnerability that will allow you to gain access to a system, web accounts, databases, accounts, passwords, things like that, right? So the common spoofing attack, spoofing meaning pretending to be someone else's, right? Or pretending to be someone that is not you, trying to break into the network, right? You can do trust exploitation, write these 4 bullet downs, what spoofing attacks are. You can use port redirection, man in the middle, and a buffer overflow attack. So trust exploitation, if you know that this guy is allowed to go through the firewall, so you'll pretend to be him so that the firewall will allow you, right? Port redirection, instead of using port 22 to get in because of the data encrypting, you can pass the data through port 23 using telnets, right? Man in the middle attack. Between you and the web server, the guy has a laptop and the data can go through him, looks at the data, and then pass it on and relays it back to you. The victim and even the web server will not not even that minor of delay. You don't even know that this guy actually exists. So that's why the data has to be encrypted. If you think that there's a chance a man in the middle will be in there. It could be a device, it could be a tap, an access point that's sitting in there watching your data. Buffer overflow, every device has a certain amount of memory. So if you can send a lot of data and you can, the memory on the victim's device gets overflown, it might overflow into legitimate data, overflow the memory, and you won't be able to, that's a kind of a denial of service attack, right? And you won't be able to, the victim won't be able to do anything. All right, social engineering attack. Please takes write down the first 3 bullet points about what social engineering attacks are and take a snapshot of this. Oh, God. Okay, so we passed that, yeah. So pretexting is when you want to pretend you need some personal or financial data to confirm the identity of the recipient. This is very, very common. You'll get an email saying that your PayPal account has been compromised. Please click here to confirm that your account is still active, or things like that. Or to double check that your system or your account has not been compromised. That's called pretexting. Phishing is somebody sending you emails. Like I got that email from eBay telling me that I purchased a flat TV, flat screen TV, 70-inch, blah blah blah, and it looks good. I mean, actually, the logo of eBay was there. Okay, so be very careful. Be suspect. Don't believe anything that you get, especially in emails. Okay. So be a little bit paranoid, and that's good. Spear phishing is when somebody is targeting a specific user. They want to target you, not just anybody, not a spam to everybody, whoever responded, but they want information specifically from you. That's called spear phishing. So somebody's sending you a specific email just to you. All right, quid pro quo. So this is when a threat actor will give you give me some information and we'll give you something. Somebody, for example, will say, hey, listen, I have a check for $10,000. Please just deposit it in your bank for a few minutes because I'm coming to the United States, or all that crap, and I'll give you $100 for it, for just holding on to this fraudulent check. Of course, you don't want to do that. Baiting. Somebody may leave, for example, a thumb drive just on the table. You may take it and say, hey, I got a free USB drive, and you stick it in your system, and your computer will immediately, they'll download a virus on your system, maybe a keylogger. Impersonations is to pretend somebody else. Tailgating. If you can, you don't even have to go into a computer. If somebody opens the door and you just go right in and you don't have access to where that door leads to, so that's called tailgating. You're trying to get in when somebody has access to it immediately. To prevent against tailgating, what you do, there's something called man trap. So when you go in that first door, there's another door to go into, for example, maybe the network room or the lab. Shoulder surfing. Somebody may be putting cameras and watching what you're typing, especially when you're typing passwords. So be very careful when you are sitting in a public place and you try to log into your system. Dumpster diving. They go into dumpsters. That's why we shred papers, because we don't want anybody to be able to gather these memos or letters that are being sent to the company. They'll get email addresses, who's who, phone numbers, and somebody can use that information to call in to reset passwords, right? So always shred your data. All right. The engineering toolkit was created. The social engineering kit was designed to help the white hackers and other network professionals create social engineering tests of their own. So please write all of these down. Right? Never give your username or password to anyone that calls you. Never. Right? Never leave your username and password credentials where somebody can see them. Right? Never open emails from untrusted sources. So especially attachments, because sometimes when you double click on an attachment and it's in an exe file and download it, say, hey, if you double click here, we're going to connect you to a website where you have a chance to win $1 million. Well, probably you just installed a malware on your system. Never release work-related information. Never use work-related passwords. That's why you should have separate passwords. Different passwords for your school password should be different than the password that you use to access your credit card or your bank. Right? Always lock and sign out. Even if you have to go to the restroom. Report anything that is suspicious. But don't send if you have an email and you think there's a virus in it, the attachment that is, don't pass that to the administrator, because what you're doing is propagating viruses. Call the administrator and let them investigate where the problem is. Always destroy confidential information, right? Like I said, shred everything. Okay, so please write these down for social engineering. This is to protect yourself. Strengthening the weakest link. So cybersecurity is as strong as its weakest link. And the weakest link in an organization is typically the LAN, right? So you can protect everything from outside and the physical access to your devices, or it could be your personnel. So please write down these 3 bullet points. Okay, so make sure you protect your weakest link. All right, so let's take a look at what is denial of service attack, buffer flows, and how to evade from being detected. Denial of service attack is let's say this is a web server and you want legitimate users to be prevented from accessing it. You as an attacker can send multiple millions and millions of packets to it to keep it busy so that legitimate user will not have access to it, right? That's a denial of service attack. Or maybe using a frequency jammer with high power running at 5 gigahertz that will prevent users from accessing their 5 gigahertz wireless network. Distributed denial of service attack is having multiple computers send packets to a specific server to overwhelm it, right? That's even harder to get rid of. You need an IPS system to be able to detect it. All right, so 2 types of denial of service attacks. Either please write these 2 bullet points down, overwhelm the quantity of traffic, right? Send too much data. Or maliciously format a specific packet, make it very, very large out of the ordinary, out of the protocol, so you will not be able to process it. They cannot handle it. All right. So components of the denial of service attack, you need to know these definitions. So what I could do is, as an attacker, send the software to your computer and just let it sit there. And with my command, I'll be able to launch an attack using your computer. So you become like a zombie. So, and if you have multiple zombies, that is what is a botnet. You become like a bot, a robot. So a zombie is really nothing but a robot. And if you have multiple robots, that's called a botnet. Multiple zombies, because they have my software is running on them. And then what I can do is, I'm the master handler, right? I can send a command, and I'm going to tell all my botnet, my zombies, to launch an attack. That's what a denial of service attack is. Take a screenshot of this, please. Don't forget to watch these videos. The Mariah botnet is a good example of how distributed denial of service attacks. It was a good video to watch. Buffer overflow. So typically your computer will, let's say he's the victim. On the computer, every application has reserved memory to use, a certain amount of memory. So what you can do is you can send a lot of data into the memory. Memory is another word for buffer. Into the buffer of the victim, that the data can overflow into the legitimate data that is in the other part, because if you're doing multitasking on your computer, one application will use a certain amount of memory and next to it will be the other application, and so on. So if you can actually have your data overflow into the other part of the memory that's being used by the other application, your system will try to access that data and it's corrupted, and then your system fails, right? That's called buffer overflow. Or you can use a ping of death. Send pings till the memory is filled. And then if the memory is filled, you won't be able to use, the computer will not be able to process any of the data. All right, evasion. How do you evade? So please take a snapshot of this too. Encrypting your data and toning it. Encrypt the data with a key Tunneling it meaning, you're encapsulating it with a new packet. Resources exhaustion. So you may, make the target extremely busy that they can't really use their security to detect what you are doing. Keep them busy so they can sneak in and get out, or get in and do whatever you need to do. Traffic fragmentation, break up your data into smaller bits. Don't send the whole package together from different times. It won't be able to detect that this is an attack, right? If you break up your data into smaller pieces. Okay. Protocol level misinterpretation. If your firewall does not detect or does not read the labels that are stamped on the packets or the segments, right? Traffic substitution. So instead of using, for example, a specific type of application, ASCII codes, you may use the Unicode. But you can read it, but firewalls or other IPS devices may not be able to, so they may sneak in with that. Traffic insertion. So this is similar to substitution. You may add extra bytes in your system, hide your data. For example, you can use sending out an image. An image requires a lot of amount of data, but if you want to send data, you can actually use, some of those steganography, it's called. You can insert specific data in another file in pieces and be able to transfer the data without any problems. You don't even know, and you will not be able to detect it, right? Because you're hiding data in another piece of data. Pivoting. Take a snapshot of this. Remember, you're taking a snapshot and you are reading this, of course, right? I'll try to explain it to you. So pivoting is when you break into a network and to a device, and that device is connected to other devices. Pivoting is being able to jump from one device to another on a network system, right? Rootkits. Rootkits are, when you install rootkits, they could do two things: steal the data, send it to the attacker, erase themselves, and they're gone. And there's nothing for you. There's really nothing that you can do about that. Or they can install themselves on your system, and every time you try to look for them, they'll show you that they're not there. They'll show you something else because they're in control of what displaying whatever you are requesting. So rootkits are a pain to detect and get rid of. Proxies is when you use someone else's IP address, someone else's computers to launch an attack. That's also going to be very difficult to detect. And you can use, a lot of attackers use proxy servers so that they use, the source IP address is coming from different locations. And you can bounce between 6 or 7 even different proxies. So it's very, very difficult to backtrack and find out where that specific attack came from. All right, and that's it for chapter 14, module 14. Please submit all the notes that I asked you to, and I will see you in module 15.